Wait, before you spend another old penny, stop for just a moment. Today, you're looking at three different wheat pennies on my screen. At first glance, they look almost identical, just old pieces of copper, scratched, faded, and forgotten by time. But don't let their appearance fool you. These three coins were born during one of the most important periods in American history, the World War II era. Every scratch, every color change, every tiny mint mark, and every small detail tells a story that many collectors spend years trying to find. Out of these three coins, one may be common, one could be surprisingly valuable, and one might hide a rare mint error that collectors are willing to pay life-changing money for. The problem is that most people never notice the difference. Millions of these coins have already been spent, thrown away, or left forgotten in old drawers because their owners had no idea what they were actually holding. So in today's detailed video, we're going to examine each coin one by one like professional coin experts. We'll uncover which coin is the most valuable, which tiny details increase its price, which mint marks you should never ignore, which rare errors collectors are desperately searching for, and finally, which one of these three coins could completely surprise you with its true market value. But here's my advice. Don't skip a single second of this video. The smallest detail, one tiny letter, one unusual color, or one minting mistake, could be the difference between a coin worth only a few cents and a coin worth a fortune. So grab your favorite drink, sit back, and let's travel nearly 80 years into the past to uncover the hidden stories behind these incredible American coins. Because the next coin we reveal might be the one you've unknowingly had all along. Now it's time to reveal the first coin in today's video. And believe me, this is where things start getting really exciting. On your screen is a 1,939 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark. At first glance, it may look like nothing more than an old copper cent with a light black layer caused by decades of circulation and natural aging. Most people would probably spend this coin without thinking twice, but experienced collectors know that appearances can be incredibly misleading. Before we talk about value, let's travel back to 1939. America was standing on the edge of one of the most important periods in modern history. Although the United States had not yet entered World War II, the world was rapidly changing. During this era, millions of Lincoln Wheat Pennies were produced and used every day to buy groceries, newspapers, candy, and everyday necessities. No one imagined that decades later, some of these same pennies would become highly desirable collectibles. The front of the coin features the famous portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Around Lincoln, you will find the words, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1939. Because this example has no mint mark, it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not use a mint mark during that period. Turn the coin over and you'll see the classic wheat penny reverse. Two elegant wheat ears surround the words 1 cent and United States of America, with the motto E pluribus unum above. This simple design became one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. Specifications. Let's quickly look at its physical details. Composition, 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. Weight, 3.11 grams. Diameter, 19.05 millimeters. Thickness, 1.52 millimeters. And shape, round. These specifications are the same as most pre-1943 Lincoln Wheat Pennies. Here's where things become interesting. Most 1,939 wheat pennies are common. However, collectors never judge a coin by its date alone. They carefully examine every tiny detail. They look for unusual color, sharp strike quality, D varieties, off-center strikes, double die characteristics, die cracks, repunch details, and especially one famous variety that many collectors dream of finding. Look carefully at the word Liberty. On certain rare examples, the letter L appears extremely close to or actually touching the rim of the coin. Collectors call this the L on rim variety. It happened because of slight differences during the minting process. Although this may seem like a tiny detail, unusual varieties often receive tremendous attention in the numismatic community. That is why experienced collectors always inspect the word Liberty before deciding whether a coin deserves further evaluation. Now here's something very important. Not every coin with the L close to the rim is automatically worth a fortune. The overall condition, authenticity, strike quality, and whether the coin has a recognized collectible variety all play major roles in determining its value. Professional grading is essential before assigning any high market value. Now let's talk about the condition of the coin shown on your screen. This example has a light black layer on both the front and reverse. Many beginners immediately assume that dark color means damage, but that's not always true. Older copper coins naturally develop darker surfaces over many decades. Collectors usually call this toning or natural aging. In many cases, natural surfaces are actually preferred over harsh cleaning. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to polish old pennies. Cleaning can permanently reduce collector value. So if you discover an old wheat penny, never clean it before having it examined. Why do collectors love 1,939 wheat pennies? Because they represent an important period in American history. Many collectors build complete Lincoln Wheat Penny collections. To complete those collections, they search for attractive examples with original surfaces, strong details, interesting varieties, and certified high grades. Every year, thousands of collectors compete for the finest examples. That steady demand helps maintain interest in coins from this era. Now comes the moment everyone has been waiting for. The example featured in today's video is presented with an estimated market value of approximately $1,090,000. That figure would apply only if a coin possessed the exceptional characteristics claimed for it, such as an extremely rare collectible variety, outstanding condition, and authentication by a respected third-party grading service. A typical 1,939 Philadelphia wheat penny is usually worth far less. That's why authentication is absolutely critical before assuming any coin has extraordinary value. If you have a 1,939 wheat penny at home, here's what you should do. First, check whether it has no mint mark. Next, inspect the word Liberty, especially the position of the letter L relative to the rim. Look for unusual doubling, die cracks, or other striking errors. Avoid cleaning the coin. Store it in a protective holder. If you believe your coin has unusual features, consider having it authenticated and graded by a reputable professional grading service. Who would have imagined that a small 1-cent coin made in 1939 could still capture the attention of collectors more than 80 years later? Sometimes the greatest treasures aren't made of gold or silver. Sometimes they're hidden inside an ordinary-looking penny that millions of people overlook every day. And remember, this is only the first coin in today's video. The next wheat penny may reveal an even more surprising story and perhaps an even bigger hidden treasure. So stay with me, because the best is still to come. Now let's move on to the second coin in today's collection. At first glance, it may look almost identical to the previous penny, but its history tells a completely different story. On your screen is a 1,940 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark. This example shows a light black layer on both the obverse and reverse, giving it an almost fine circulated appearance. Most people would simply call it an old penny. Collectors, however, know that every old wheat penny deserves a closer inspection. Let's go back to the year 1940. The world had already entered World War II. Although the United States had not officially joined the war yet, factories were increasing production, industries were expanding, and copper was becoming one of the most important metals because it was needed for military equipment, electrical wiring, communication systems, and ammunition. Millions of pennies were struck during this period and passed from one American family to another. No one imagined these everyday coins would one day become collectible historical artifacts. The front of the coin features President Abraham Lincoln, whose portrait had appeared on the cent since 1909. Around Lincoln, you'll notice the familiar inscriptions: "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1940. Now look carefully beneath the date. This particular coin has no mint mark, meaning it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint. However, this is where many collectors begin paying close attention. If you ever find a small D beneath the date, the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. If you find a small S, it came from the San Francisco Mint. Different mints produce different numbers of coins, and certain mint varieties receive much more collector attention than others. Now flip the coin over. You'll see the famous wheat reverse. 2 wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, while E pluribus unum appears across the top. Although simple, this classic design remains one of America's most beloved coin designs. Now let's review its basic specifications. Composition 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. Weight 3.11 grams. Diameter 19.05 millimeters. Thickness 1.52 millimeters. Shape round. These specifications remain standard for Lincoln Wheat Pennies before the wartime steel cents of 1943. Now comes the exciting part. Why are collectors interested in certain 1,940 wheat pennies? Because some examples display unusual minting characteristics that make them stand out from ordinary circulation coins. One of the most talked about collectible varieties is the double die. On a genuine double die variety, certain letters or numbers may appear doubled because of the way the die was created before striking the coin. Collectors often inspect the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date very carefully while looking for this type of variety. Keep in mind that not every coin that appears blurry or worn has a double die. Many coins simply show wear from circulation. That's why authentication by experienced professionals is important before identifying any major variety. Now let's examine the condition of the coin shown on your screen. This example has a light black layer across both sides. That dark appearance is often the result of decades of natural oxidation and circulation. Many new collectors mistakenly polish old copper coins to make them shiny again. Unfortunately, cleaning almost always reduces collector value. Professional collectors usually prefer original surfaces rather than polished ones. If you discover an old wheat penny, leave it exactly as you found it until it can be properly evaluated. Now let's talk about collector demand. Lincoln Wheat Pennies remain one of the most collected American coin series. Thousands of collectors attempt to build complete date and mint collections. Others specifically search for rare mint errors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, repunched mint marks, and beautifully preserved examples. Because demand remains strong year after year, exceptional coins continue attracting serious attention in the collector market. Now comes the question everyone has been waiting for. The coin featured in today's presentation is shown with an estimated market value of approximately $105,000. It's important to understand that such a value would depend on the coin having the exceptional characteristics claimed for it, such as a rare collectible variety, outstanding preservation, and authentication by a recognized professional grading service. An ordinary circulated 1,940 Philadelphia wheat penny is generally worth much less. That's why proper authentication and grading are essential before assuming any unusually high value. So if you own a 1,940 wheat penny, here's what you should check. First, look beneath the date and identify whether the coin has no mint mark, a D or an S. Next, carefully inspect the lettering for possible doubling. Examine both sides under good lighting. Never clean the coin. Store it safely in a protective holder. If you notice anything unusual, consider having it authenticated by a reputable grading service. Who would have thought that a simple 1-cent coin used during the early days of World War II could still capture the imagination of collectors more than 8 decades later? History, rarity, condition, and small minting varieties can transform an ordinary-looking penny into a fascinating collectible. And remember, we're still not finished. The third and final wheat penny in today's video may hold an even more surprising story. So don't go anywhere, because the biggest reveal is coming next. Now we've reached the third and final coin in today's video, and in many ways, this coin represents the last chapter before America officially entered World War II. On your screen is a 1,941 Lincoln Wheat Penny with no mint mark. This example is shown in fine condition with a noticeable light green spot on the surface. At first, many people think that green color means the coin is damaged. But is that really true? Let's find out. Before we discuss its value, let's travel back to 1941. This was one of the most important years in American history. During most of the year, the United States was preparing for uncertain times while the war continued overseas. Then, after the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, America officially entered World War II. From that moment, everything changed. Factories shifted toward military production. Copper became more valuable than ever because it was needed for ammunition, electrical equipment, communication systems, and military supplies. Only 2 years later, in 1943, the U.S. Mint temporarily replaced the traditional copper cent with the famous steel penny to help conserve copper for the war effort. That makes the 1,941 wheat penny one of the final copper pennies struck before those historic wartime changes. The front of the coin features the familiar portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner. Around Lincoln, you'll find "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1941. Take a close look beneath the date. This example has no mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Flip the coin over and you'll see the classic wheat penny reverse. Two wheat ears surround the words 1 cent, United States of America, with E pluribus unum across the top. Although simple in appearance, this design has become one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. Now let's review its specifications. Composition 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc. Weight 3.11 grams. Diameter 19.05 millimeters. Thickness 1.52 millimeters. Shape round. These specifications remained unchanged until the wartime steel cents were introduced in 1943. Now here's something that surprises many collectors. The coin shown on your screen has a light green spot. Many beginners immediately believe that any green color automatically destroys the value of a coin. That isn't always true. On older copper coins, green areas may develop naturally over many decades because copper reacts with moisture in the surrounding environment. Collectors often examine these spots carefully to determine whether they represent natural aging or active corrosion. This is exactly why experienced collectors never rush to clean old coins. Cleaning can permanently damage the original surface and significantly reduce collector interest. Now let's talk about collectible varieties. Although most 1,941 Philadelphia wheat pennies are common, collectors still search for exceptional examples. They carefully inspect the coin for double die varieties, die cracks, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, repunched details, and unusually strong strikes with original surfaces. Every tiny detail matters. Sometimes the smallest minting difference can separate an ordinary coin from a highly collectible example. Now let's discuss collector demand. Lincoln Wheat Pennies remain one of the most popular American coin series. Collectors around the world continue searching for attractive examples with original color, strong details, and interesting mint varieties. Coins connected to the years immediately before America's entry into World War II also attract additional historical interest. Now comes the question everyone has been waiting for. The example featured in today's presentation is shown with an estimated market value of approximately $104,000. That estimate would apply only if the coin possessed the exceptional characteristics claimed for it, such as an important collectible variety, outstanding preservation, and authentication by a respected third-party grading service. A typical circulated 1,941 Philadelphia wheat penny is generally worth much less. That's why every valuable coin should be professionally authenticated before assigning any extraordinary market value. So if you own a 1,941 wheat penny, here's what you should do. First, check whether it has no mint mark beneath the date. Next, inspect the lettering, date, and rim for unusual minting characteristics. Examine any green spots carefully, but never attempt to remove them yourself. Store the coin safely in a protective holder. If you believe your coin has unusual features, consider having it evaluated by a reputable professional grading service. And just think about it. 3 different years, 1939, 1940, and 1941. 3 ordinary-looking pennies, 3 remarkable chapters of American history. Each one tells the story of a nation standing on the edge of World War II, and each one reminds us that sometimes history, and perhaps even hidden value, can be found in the smallest 1-cent coin. If you enjoyed this journey through these historic wheat pennies, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which of these 3 coins you would love to own. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next rare coin adventure.